What's up, you guys? It's Anthony here from DIYautotech. We got a Honda Civic here, 2001, with a 1.7 liter engine. We had a P1361 check engine code, and the car intermittently basically died on the freeway. So after looking on all data Identifix, we came up with a couple problems that could have happened. We could have too much end play in the camshaft, or it could be the top dead center cam position sensor circuit wiring, or the sensor itself. The wiring is loomed in really tight with everything, and so we're going to look at that last. We're going to throw a cam position sensor in here and change the valve cover gasket and check the camshaft end play. First thing we're going to do is disconnect the negative cables from the battery. And it would be cool if I could fit my socket on that too. Take that off and set it aside. Go ahead and get this little plastic cover out of the way. Just use a key to turn these that way. Leave it to the side. Then we're going to want to remove this whole sub-assembly here. So I'm just going to start loosening everything up a little bit. Including all these. Alright, so now that we have all the bolts undone, we're just going to remove the coolant temp sensor as well. We're just going to push down on the little tab here and pull up. Got the throttle position, or the throttle cables out of the way. I loosened the hose for the AC unit, just so I could get the wiring loom out of the way. And we're gonna check that's all off. Alright, we need to remove this hose as well too. Alright, just gonna pry off on that little tab there. That's good. And we can let that hang out of the way. I might want to remove the air box too, so we're probably just gonna get that out of the way as well. Alright, now that we got the intake off and out of the way, you don't really need to do it, just kind of clears up some room. You just want to kind of pull this off of the studs, and then we can start unbolting the valve cover, which I believe is with some 10 millimeters. And we'll just kind of loosen them up. Kind of a little cross pattern. You don't want to warp this at all. And we'll start taking it off from there. We also have to remove this throttle cable plate that sits directly underneath this. It's just two bolts. One of the things I like to do is I like to take a mallet, and I've already loosened this, and just kind of whack the side of the valve cover, just to kind of loosen it up. And then on any high side of a valve cover, so the side that's the highest point, I like to kind of take a screwdriver and just barely touch the tip of it, like a brass screwdriver, something that's not going to damage the metal surface. And then we'll be able to pull this and maneuver it out of the way. There we go. Actually looks pretty clean. Not bad. I'm going to set this upside down on the ground. Don't want to get that contaminated at all. And so now we have our upper timing cover that consists of 3 bolts to pull the upper cover off. And this is to be to check the top dead center sensor. For this one, you're going to need a pretty tight little 10mm wrench to kind of fit in between here and the belt. Now, of course, there are longer wrenches and breaker bars, but I'm making these videos for all the guys that are at home, like me, working in the garage. And then we got the lower one as well. Sorry for blocking the camera. Now that the 3 bolts are off, you should be able to remove the connector for the top dead center sensor. And this should really just pull out of the way. It'll take a little maneuvering, of course. And alright, so we got the sensor in there. It's gonna be hard to see. That's the sensor right there. We're gonna stick some rags underneath in the timing cover, so when we loosen that bolt, it doesn't go flying everywhere. Because if that bolt comes out without us around it, we're gonna have to pull the lower timing cover off to find it. Alright, so we have a rag shoved underneath, so now if the bolt falls, hopefully it gets caught in the rag. We're gonna try and loosen this as easily as we can, and hopefully it doesn't fall out. That's fine. And again, I'm going to double check that my rag is there. Alright, I got the bolt out. I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to pull the sensor out. And not much to it, really. Alright, so we got the new sensor popped back in, and we're just going to tighten it up. Remember, this is a plastic piece, so you want to snug it up, give it a nice turn, and that is about it. Let's get our wrench on there and snug it up a bit. Alright, so now we're sliding the cover back on, and we're getting the 3 bolts back into place. Well, trying to. It's a very narrow area, so you might want to try and get some small hands to help you out with this part of the job. But man, it is tight in here. I got one hand. I'm just snugging them up right now. That one's in, and then let's go ahead and plug this connector in. Make sure it's pushed all the way in. Then let's put the rubber grommet and push that back in as well to keep any dirt out of the timing cover. Now let's tighten up that 3rd bolt down there. And let's snug them all down. Snug there. That one's tight. And now for the bottom one. Alright, so that's nice and tight. Now we got to get that valve cover seated in there. I'm going to take off all the old deposits and stuff with the rag, and then we'll seat the new valve cover gasket. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take all the old sediment, I'm going to try and flush it out of the valve cover. See, get some yucky gunk like that. We just want to clean our mating surface up as best as we can so that we have a nice dry seal. Because it doesn't take much to ruin a good seal. It only takes one bad spot. So we'll get all this gunk out of the way. And the top is going to be fairly clean because oil is not going to be traveling out past the top. It's going to come towards the bottom because this is a slanted cylinder head a little bit. So clean that up like so. And you can see here this valve cover has been replaced before. Actually, I don't know if you'll be able to see that little nick. But someone had taken a screwdriver right there and pried up right there. You don't want to do that because that's on the slanted side of the block, which is why I do it in the top corner here where there's a bunch of excess material or metal left over that isn't where the contact point is of the gasket. So let's get that new gasket seated on the valve cover. We're definitely going to need to clean the inside of this valve cover gasket out though. So that's how it lays. Alright, so like I said, we're just going to clean the inside out. Just of any loose particles that might have dropped in there while we were doing this. So now with the new gasket, we're going to try and apply, you say they used a little bit of looks like a silicone in some of the spots. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on this gasket. Just going to use some on the corners at first. Place on along the corners. And then we'll just place them periodically. Just to keep everybody happy. And this will just help ensure a nice tight fit. So again, we're going to take this gasket and we're going to, I guess, somewhat line it up with the other gasket. We'll start in the corner over here. Alright, once that's good, let's give it a good clean pass around. good enough to go back on to me. Now what we want to do over here is we want to do the same thing. We're going to want to apply some of this in these little hard to reach areas. Like over the cam humps here and in all the little corners. So we'll take a little bit on the tip of my finger and I'm just going to spread it around the corner. Very small amount, you don't need a lot of this stuff. Alright, we got the corners, and now we're going to want to do a little bit at the base of the humps. And just kind of smear some over the top of the humps as well to help seat that gasket. Don't go crazy with this stuff, you guys. You just need a little bit. And we'll have to clean some of that off the lifter cover there. Alright, now, after all that fun work, we can attempt to put that valve cover on. Hopefully this AC line works with us and we can kind of get it on there without too much fuss. That would be nice. Alright, so this AC line needs to come over as far as possible. Almost there. Check the gasket. Alright, give it the old mallet. Alright, I'm gonna get my flashlight and go around and check. Alright, let's go ahead and tighten this down a little bit. Snug it up. Always good to make sure that all the holes are lining up, which they seem to be. So that's good. Kind of just start snugging them all up. Because we got to crush that gasket into place. So now we can tighten it up. We're not using too much force. I'm just making sure that they all feel about the same, which they do. I think it's crushed into place pretty nicely. Alright, I'm going to put the oil filler cap back in. And the dipstick after cleaning it off. Since we're here, check that oil. And we're going to clean this off so that if we have any leaks, well, we'll be able to see them. So it's just a good practice. Well, I mean, just to keep anything clean. We're going to tighten up our little bracket here that we kind of moved out of the way. And we're just going to snug it down like so. That's good. Now we'll get the throttle linkage bracket put back into place. And we'll go ahead and tighten that up as well. Alright, now the bracket's bolted back on. Pull this cover back over here. And get that all squared away. Let's get this AC unit popped back in. And that's also with this 10mm here. Do this by hand. There we go. And I'll put it in place very nicely. Let's snug that up. Don't know why I have an extension on there. That ain't going anywhere now. Let's get these back in there. And check the bottoms of them before you put them in. Oops. To make sure that there's nothing blocking there. Good right there. Pop that back in. And then we can start bolting these little pieces back into place. Tight plus a little turn. Same with these. Remember, you're tightening on a plastic. So it's a small amount. plug that coolant temp sensor back in. That's in there. Oops, I forgot to bolt those back on. Let's get those off. There we go. That's more like it. Alright, that's good there. And let's get these two in here as well. There's that. Get this little cover back on there. It's on there good. Let's get the intake back on. Got that plugged back in. So let's take this intake air temp sensor and get it plugged back in. Use that. Move back in there. Got that on there as well. Let's get the intake back in there. Slap the box back on. Make sure the box is clean before you put it back in there. Tighten those up a little bit, but not much. This is a plastic box. And you will crack it if you try and torque these on. Go around and do like a little quarter turn. That's good. Alright, let's get the last 3 bolts back in here. Maybe just to hold the whole intake box on. Those are 10s. Alright, that's good. That's good. That's good. We can go ahead and throw our negative cable back on the battery. Should be holding the wire side. And throw the 10 back on there. So that's back on. We're just going to double check to make sure everything is plugged back in where it should be. Alright, we got the car started. We're just going to check for any obvious signs of leaks anywhere under the hood. Take it for a drive. We'll come back, check for leaks, and we'll see if the check engine light comes back on for the P1361 top dead center intermittent sensor fault. This has been another video from Anthony at DIYautotech. Please like my videos, subscribe, and do me a favor and please click on one of my advertisements while you're on my page. It'll help me to keep funding all these videos that I can make for you guys. Have a great day. See you next time.